Okay, so I'm Charlie. I am a sports therapist and personal trainer from little old Norwich in the UK. And you're going to have a very interesting, well, I think an interesting part when you listen to the show today. I will be talking a little bit about my story of someone that was anorexic and from that has become a Great British age group triathlete. But also how I run a business working with people online and face to face that are overcoming their own mental and physical injuries, as well as pushing people to do crazy things like triathlons and marathons. So you will hear a little bit about my story and the community that I have here with my wife at our little studio at Beyond Inspired Fitness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Tarovinga, and today we've got a guest whose journey is nothing short of remarkable. Now, Charlie, how are you doing today?
I'm all right today. At work.
Great stuff. I'm happy we caught you not lifting heavy things today or running in the GBR Triathlon, and at least we've got a couple of minutes to hear your story, and I can't wait to dive into that. Now, thank you so much for making this time available. Now, for those that are watching right now, I want you to picture this. So a triathlete who once battled anorexia, who's now become a personal trainer, and she's turned all those struggles into strength and a well-being that she's now helping others be do and have a happier existence. And she's also a sports therapist who's now dedicated her life to helping others defy the odds. Now, Charlie, all of this, can be said about, one person. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you have actually, come to the, realm that you're doing now, helping others as a sports therapist.
So I am going to give away my age in a minute now, aren't I? So I qualified in May 1999, a really long time ago, as an 18-year-old, and wasn't 100%, was quite poorly with anorexia at the time. And when I qualified, was told by everybody very nicely to become a fitness instructor, and that being the nice way to do it. Typical Charlie style, decided that wasn't going to happen, and that if she'd qualified to be a PT and a sports therapist, she was going to go and do that because that's what she was passionate about. So my first client had pericarditis, collapsed lung and a broken foot. So that was called flung in the deep end. And I worked in somewhere called Manchester, talked myself into a job, working self-employed for an agency, a subcontractor. And then from that, I ended up working a little bit with This Morning, a TV show here, helping someone on a weight loss journey. And there was 10 people, and actually she won. So that was really quite cool. And then I suppose fast forward, really, I always say to people when it comes to eating disorder and stuff, it's a daily choice. I don't think it's anything you 100% get over. I think you have to learn how to handle days and make your decision every day. And how did I fall into triathlon? That's quite interesting. I did actually relocate to Essex for working for one of my bosses, and set up a personal training company where she was. And at that point in time, online wasn't known about. People didn't know about online. It wasn't in the remit. And I set up quite an established business there and teach stuff. And then because of the pressures of the industry, really, came out of the industry for a while, just because it wasn't great for my mental health. But I kind of didn't take a full back off. Instead, I trained up mentors to work with kids with behavioural issues. And some of that was done actually a little bit online at that point in time. And then moved forward really to then doing a couple of home clients, and kind of stuck it with that for a while. And then I ended up having to move to Norwich, and I'm quite open about that. I was in an abusive marriage, so I left everything and arrived in Norwich with a suitcase, and that's what I arrived with. Had to shut down a business and all sorts, and kind of got back into PT, really, I suppose. I was an instructor-based teacher, so I worked with those kids that were on the edge of being excluded or last stop before school, and ended up working in a special needs school with a lot of children that were in wheelchairs and stuff. And I suppose that's when I became really, really passionate about rehab. So I worked massively alongside physios and stuff, and then ended up deciding that I wanted to go back into personal training, really. And I ended up personal training at a club that I was a member of. So that's always interesting when you're a member and then you become a personal trainer. Always an interesting situation to be in. And people are a bit like, oh, yesterday you were like in normal clothes and today you're in a PT kit. I'm not quite sure how that works. And yeah, I worked for a big organisation here for quite a long time, doing their teaching spin and all sorts. And I got into triathlon by one of my clients. Wanted to do a session for her sister and her. And at that point in time, you couldn't pay for an extra person to join in your session via the club. So she just said, I'm going to book you a place to do a triathlon. I thought, this could be interesting, couldn't it? So I borrowed a bike, borrowed a wetsuit, and thought, well, just see how it goes. I rocked up. She didn't. She didn't turn up to the race. I had a really bad temperature and viral infection time, and I thought Sarah, that's now my wife, was my best friend, and she was like, "Oh, you can do it anyway." Speaks of who I am. Did it? Didn't have a flipping clue. Tried to try and get wetsuits on and everything, and finished it thinking, quite enjoyed that. It's quite good fun. And I suppose that's where my love of triathlon kind of fell for, really. And as long as I'd been a PT, I then started to get people involved in triathlon and knew a few people. One girl especially was part of the age group team. And one weekend I'd promised Sarah that I wouldn't, we were going on holiday, and I'd promised her I'd never do a half Ironman, which is like quite a long distance. But instead, the weekend before I went away, I did 3 triathlons in a weekend, which she then worked out quite quickly. Actually meant I did an Ironman more than that over a weekend. And at the end of that, I realised that, well, actually, one of the girls said to me, I think you should qualify for Great Britain. And I said, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. She's like, yeah, I think you probably can. So yeah, I did. I went and did my only 3rd standard race and qualified for the European Championships. If in my age group, which at the time was 40 to 44. Was it? Yes, I think it was. Trying to work that out then, make sure I got the maths correctly. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Whilst in the meantime having a business, and amidst all of that, I left the big company I was working for, the Joys, just before lockdown, and started at an independent company working as a PT and sports coach there. And it was a completely different environment. Where I'd worked previously had become quite toxic and not a great place to work. Was quite people weren't particularly pleasant at the end, and I didn't realise until I left, really. I was top 5 in the company across the country when I'd left, but I just felt it was right time to leave. And I was very, very blessed that 90% of my clients came with me, which was brilliant. And then obviously we all had the joys of lockdown, and for me that's when online became something quite big, really. At the time, who is now my wife and I, we did live together, but we were best friends. When we told people we're getting married, they were like, thank goodness it's taken us, why have you not got there before we did? Which was quite entertaining. But we said, we were quite ahead of the game and said early doors, we're going to take it online. So that's where online PT began, really. So we did online PT through the whole of lockdown. We started to do online classes through lockdown. We started to do Zoom meetings of like coffee and quizzes just to community. Every single night we cooked live online, which was entertaining for people, and just built a community of people up, really, that were struggling and could connect through that. And at the end of lockdown, we were very blessed in we wanted our own studio, and a friend of ours said, well, feel free to come and use our old offices. And it's in the country. it's a nice safe haven. People walk in, it's got a nice little coffee area, it's got a nice little gym, it's got a sports therapy area, people can chill, people can work. And then on the back of that, we've kept our online going really alongside. So I've still got people that live, well, at one point I trained my little sister who lives in Canada. I now train people that live across the UK. Some of our clients do a mixture of online and face-to-face just because it works for them practically. And then in the midst of that, we are now both currently have a date of November the 1st, which is new out there, where I'm starting to create a course specifically working with people recovering from anorexia, looking at improving their strength and looking at improving self-esteem. And I've linked that with one of my clients that's a therapist that also does online and face-to-face. So we kind of feel like got 10 weeks to create and launch a product that's probably on my heart. And I've noticed that through doing triathlon and meeting people, I've started my own blog, which has been good for people to follow. And a lot of people are shocked, I think, about the reality of life, of juggling PT, sports, triathlon, and general mental health, as we all do. So that's kind of where I'm at, and business has taken a bit of a turn in this last year, really. And I've got more and more people coming through our doors and want to do like online stuff just because they're beginning to connect into a community around us, really. Which is, it's exciting. It's exciting. It's tiring, but it's exciting. And people think, oh, how do you actually manage it all? And I've had a shift of lifestyle, so I get up earlier and still work late, but I've just changed lifestyle around really, because otherwise it doesn't work. So yeah, that's kind of a long story short, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. You've given us so much to work with, and I really appreciate you bringing all that to the table. And I quite like how you said it's all tiring, because I can imagine you're in the midst of lifting heavy things, you're in the midst of growing a business and everything else that comes along with it. It would be heavy. I mean, with the experience that you've had, it really puts you in the right driving seat to be able to help people. I mean, you've worked with a diverse range of people, clients, different walks of life, and obviously aptitudes, towards health and well-being, and some are, like you say, they're recovering from severe injuries, right? Like they're coming from really, and people that are also aspiring to become athletes. But how do you then put this so that it's unique for each and every different person? Because it does sound like, obviously, it's a lot, and you actually tailor your programs to meet different people at different times.
I think, and I always say this to people, you can listen to people, and there's a difference between listening to people and really listening to people. And I think I've learned over the past years, especially where I'm at now, is that it's about reading between the lines and letting people talk. So, for example, I've got one guy that we've now been training together for about 2.5, 3 years, I would think. And he actually had a serious cycling accident. He died at the scene and was brought back. He was in a coma. They didn't think he'd come back at all. When I started training with him, he literally could lift 1 kilogram in the gym. That was about it. And doesn't remember anything properly. So even now, he doesn't remember any of his past. So I've had to really learn that there are occasions he's been quite aggressive to me and not great. And I've had to understand and learn with him and how his is, and know that a lot of that is his insecurities. And interesting enough, I had a cycling accident at the end of 2022, September. I was cycling with him. And I was out cold on the scene. Unfortunately for him, it brought back a lot of stress. And we've had to really work through that. And it's been a process of me saying to him sometimes, I understand where you're at. Like, I get it. So let's just work through. And now I would say he's one of the strongest people I've got, but I also have to know and recognize peaks and troughs with him. So sometimes you can push and sometimes you have to hold back. And getting him back out on his bike has been an effort, but he's getting back out there again now because he's overcome again. He was going up bike, loving it, saw me crash, had a bit of a breakdown about it. He's now getting his confidence back, and I think seeing me race has made him go, okay. I've got another lady that had a very serious accident in May last year, shouldn't be here, broke her neck. I saw her way back in December and said, I'm going to get you off crutches. And she kind of went, yeah. And it took me really until I think I started working with her in May, and just talking about her fears and worries and the frustration of someone that was so active and so fit to, she calls herself a rag doll, and on crutches. And our aim was to get her walking without crutches by December. And I have video footage of her walking without crutches now. So we are ahead of the game. And she always says to people, it's about pushing. So that's kind of my serious rehab side of stuff, if you like. But then I have got one of my, to become a really, really good friend. And because as an age group athlete, you're not funded by your country. You have to fund yourself because you're not seen as elite. So my clients last year and this year were amazing. And we've just done charity event or like sponsorship event after sponsorship event. And I had a group of girls that we talked about doing triathlon. And they formed a team, which was great. So one was a cyclist, one ran, one swam. And one of the girls specifically, when I met her, I'm trying to think, I've trained Kerry now 6 or 7 years, had a broken shoulder. And all she wanted to do was be able to do her bra up. That was it. And she is now about to do her 6th full triathlon, actually. So last year she ended up being the swimmer and runner. And it was brilliant because she just fell in love with it. And we were open water swimming in all weathers. One of the other girls was so full of anxiety that even the day she competed, we weren't sure she was going to finish. I felt sick to my stomach. In fact, that race was horrendous because I had 3 crashes. So my race was held for an hour. And I was so worried it was her that had an accident in the water, but she was fine. So it's kind of become a community around triathlon now. So I have got people that you would never ever dream about doing it, that would. And my wife has had a meniscus tear to her knee, which has meant she's put quite a lot of weight back on. As a personal trainer, that's not a great position to be in, and hasn't been able to be as active as she wanted at all. But this year has managed to do a bike leg of a triathlon, which is huge, and is inspiring to people that are thinking, I've had a massive injury, I can't get back. Having my cycling accident itself, I think, changed my perspective. The consultants were amazed with my history of anorexia that I hadn't broken anything. They were like, we don't understand. Like, we have no idea. You should have shattered your collarbone. You should have broken your shoulder. You haven't done any of the above. We don't understand it. And I literally couldn't dress myself. And then literally 5-6 months later after that, I qualified for the World Championships, which was a bit crazy when I look at it. But I suppose personal journey then has made me better with other people, and other people have watched that journey and thought, hang on a minute, she's just not talking the talk, she's walking the walk now. Like, clients are having to drive me around. And they were like, hang on a minute, you've come from that to that. So for me, it's about really meeting people and just finding where their needs are at and walking a journey. And I've had people, one guy, Ian, we laugh, I've trained him for since I started PTing back in Norwich in 2012. So 12 years on, he's moved me 3 times. That's quite entertaining, including to studio. But it's just those constant conversations and working out where people are at. And we're really blessed the fact we have a space where people can come and have coffee. Last year, sadly, one of our ladies was widowed on the result of COVID. Her husband got long COVID, ended up in a heart condition. She was only 40 when he died. He was 38. Another one of our clients and good friends' son hung himself. So that's been quite difficult as a company to handle. But it's been really, really good in a way, because it's just meant there's been more doors that have opened up, more communities that have opened up, more support bases that have opened up. And those girls have now become involved. We did last year, we're part of our local church called Soul Church. And that's a lot of where our heart's at, really. Passionate about seeing people achieve what they can achieve. And for me, it's everything. It's not just physical, it's mind, body, it's soul. And we took a group of people and we did soul runs half marathon and 10K. So some walked it, some ran it. And it was brilliant because those very girls got together and did it. And I think part of the business we have success now is doing events. And every single month now we're doing something as a fundraiser for the World Championships for me. But more than that, it's about bringing people together. And then I think in doing that, people's needs are met, or they believe they can do things. So we had a cyclathon, and the lady that had fallen over and did the walk, there was two of us, got her onto the bike, and she cycled for half an hour and came off with a massive smile on her face because she was like, I didn't even think I could last 5 minutes. Someone else with a hip issue was like, I'm going to try it. So two of us helped her on. She completed half an hour. And I think for me, seeing little things like that, even when you're tired and when it's tough, are your wins. Because it's not all about, I've got some people that have gone and smashed them, because I used to do marathon running before I got into triathlon, smashed marathon times, knocked off times off their triathlon, and that's great. But it's the little wins. It's the seeing the little wins. And a girl I worked with was really, really poorly, just the other side of Anorexia. I first worked with her. I don't PT her anymore, but there's a reason for that. She's now a mum. As one of my strongest clients, she's now happy with a partner, trains at home because she can't afford to come across to us, but her whole outlook on life has changed. So I think when you look back at that, it makes you realise how you have to adapt as well in those sort of situations, I think, and managing when people don't achieve. So one of my clients recently wanted to climb Ben Nevis. We got her really, really fit for it. Her biggest fear was the fact she wouldn't make it. Jumped on her live, thought, oh gosh, she's halfway up. Saw the fact she wasn't. She was at the bottom, walking down in absolute bits because she'd got a chest infection. But she started to climb anyway, and ended up jumping on and FaceTiming her within, as soon as I could. Literally, I was the only person first person she spoke to when she got down the bottom, and just saying, you haven't failed. This is just life. Like, you had a chest infection. You even started to walk up there. You got 2 hours up Ben Nevis, like flipping heck. You couldn't have done that. And it's not, your body's not, it's you're really, really poorly. So I think it's learning to pick people up when they don't achieve what they want and saying, come on, let's look at what we have achieved, and then let's turn it around and move them on. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, really, which makes the tough days good days, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, each and every one of us is going through so much in life, and you would have maybe experienced that, or the community that you've built has somebody in there that can actually sympathize and empathize with that person, and they kind of feel like home. I kind of feel like what you've created there in Norwich is people obviously come for the PT, but they stick around for the community, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they also stick. I think for us as well, it's about saying to people, it is funny. There's quite a lot of people doing triathlons now, or marathons and doing stuff, but it's just the little things. It's just people believing in themselves to do, come in and do a circuit session they never thought they could do. Or one of my ladies that come to stay, actually, we laugh about the fact she's the only person that's injured herself in the studio by literally taking one step backwards, missing her foot, and ended up breaking her ankle and her wrist. So we always have this humour about it, but she's in her 70s, overcome cancer. She's now training 2 or 3 times a week, and you wouldn't recognise her from how she was and what she's doing, the session she's doing. And like, when we look back at where she was when she started doing our group exercise classes, there was nowhere on earth, like the thought of getting down on the floor and up from the floor was never going to happen. Whereas it happens now, and there are big wins as well. It's not just about massive things. It's about those little wins. It's about saying, actually, that's a little win, but that's huge, because you don't understand the person's backstory. And I think that then makes people encourage other people and say, well, if I can do it and I'm in my 70s, you can do it, really. Yeah, and it is a real community effort. It's a real community of people that gather alongside each other and are there for each other, and we're quite open and honest on our Facebook page. We have a closed client group, and in there people can share anything they want, and it's great that people do share that. And my wife, she wouldn't mind saying this, had a nervous breakdown thanks to menopause and all sorts back in April, and rather than not being honest about that, we were very honest with our clients about it. And she couldn't work properly for 6 weeks, so I carried the business, her clients and mine, and an online offering. And I think that made us even stronger, because other people coming forward with their mental health issues and saying, okay, we understand and you're not perfect. And a lot of people didn't know about my history necessarily. And I think I've started to be more honest about it, and put it out there, just from the fact that I'm realizing it's helping other people move forward, really. And I think that's
Absolutely. I viscerally believe we're here in life to live, to learn, and to contribute. I mean, for us to be able to live our best lives, we need to have learned from those that have been before us, and maybe learn from other people's experiences, and then be able to sort of contribute. And I think with the way that you are handling it, I mean, for somebody who's also faced significant, personal and professional challenges, along the way, one would be in fetal position saying, woe is me, but you are literally, like I say, contributing and sending the elevator down. I mean, what gives? What is it that wakes you up at night? Like right now, you told me your throat is not the best, but you're still sitting here with me, and and surprisingly enough, you're doing most of the talking.
I think I would say I'm determined, and I think I was saying something recently and using quite a lot. I think your mess becomes your message. And I haven't been. I think recently, not a lot of people would realise I came from an abusive marriage. So I had a conversation with someone a few months ago that said something, oh, so it was quite offhand, really, not meaning to be, and oh, you're married to a woman, and you've always been. I was like, actually, no, I haven't. Oh, your family's in Essex, why are you in Norwich? And I just literally was like, well, actually, I had to vacate the area. Like, that's the bottom line. I had to vacate, and I came with nothing. And they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, you don't have to apologise. Like, it's absolutely fine. And we worked in a refuge for a little while with women that had been abused and things. And I think that gives you resilience when you look back at that and think, actually, if you'd said to that Charlie walking around the streets, not really giving a damn, I wasn't fit and healthy as I am now. I certainly wasn't. I was probably the most unhealthy. I'd started smoking. I did all sorts. I wasn't necessarily engaged in church, which for me, I would say, and for Sarah and I, our faith is fundamental to who we are. And that is a lot of what makes us tick and makes us work, if you like. You look back and think, hang on a minute, you have a resilience that comes through that says, I can make it. And if I've lost everything once and pulled through, then that's what's going to get me up in the morning. And for me, I've realized that if you'd said to an anorexic 16, 17-year-old, even I would say in my 30s, you're going to be competing for your country and your age group at triathlon, I would have told you that was impossible. I started running marathons and Riz was good. It took me 3 attempts to try to get the 3:45 I wanted, stuck at 3:47, but I went from 5-hour marathon to 3:47. I quit marathon running in the end because last marathon I did on 3 injuries, and that just destroyed my running head, to be honest. But I think I've always been someone that's quite determined. So this year, I wasn't happy with a few things that were going. So I now set my alarm up early and I go swimming at 7 o'clock, 7:15 in the morning. And so always says to me, I can't believe it, even in the days you don't want to do it, you just get up and you do it. And I know that for me, that's my time where I have my headspace, where I would say I would pray and I chat things through, where I get my head together. I would say there were days like today, not feeling 100%. I don't particularly want to get on my bike and I don't want to go running. But I'm looking at the bigger picture in October. I know how I feel when I cross that line. If I haven't, I raced recently and knocked a whole something like 20 minutes off my time, which was just crazy, for the same race I did last year. Yeah, and it's just looking at those things, really. So I think my driver is saying, hang on a minute, I nearly died from anorexia. I've gone through a really horrible marriage. Sarah and I ourselves, as Christians, we struggled when we were in lockdown, that we were in love. We had to really work that through. And I have to say, our church are amazing. Our clients have been amazing. Our parents worked the journey with us. It wasn't easy at times. So I think I've chosen to face a lot of things head on. And that's what maybe gives me a bit of determination and a bit of grit that says, you can't tell me I can't do. If you tell me I can't, I'm going to. And I say to people, if you say to me it's impossible, in that it says I am possible. And don't get me wrong, there are days when it doesn't feel like it's possible. There are days when, we've just had 10 days off and I was ready to have a break by the Friday because I didn't want to talk to anybody or be anything to anybody. But I think it's okay to recognize that. I think it's okay to say, I can't do that today. And that's part of the reason I started to blog stuff, is to say to people, it is, especially when you're competing, when you're training people, you have these highs and lows. And for me, I get very, very anxious. Sarah always laughs with people that come. The amount of times people say to me, have you done a triathlon before? And I'm like, yeah. And not often, but more often than not at the moment, I started to wear my GB kit only psychologically to think, okay, I'm good enough. I can do this. But it is an imposter syndrome that I get through. And I don't think I'm ever going to be somebody that is probably arrogant about it. I just think hard work and determination, it's how I've always been as a character. And it's what makes me tick. And I want to see people achieving more than they think they can. So on my bad days, I think about what I want to see them achieve. And that means when you're working 12, 13-hour days and you're tired and you get home and you think, all I just want to do is just go to bed and not have to see anyone for 40 hours. That's what gets you up. And having a good support crew. I've got a really, really good support crew. We both have that are around us that we can be honest with. So people outside of work, when you're having those difficult days, that it's not appropriate to come into work and offload on clients. But we now know we've got a good base of friends that will message and we can say, yeah, we're having a crap day. And they'll be like, okay, what can we do? What can we do to make today easier? And that's just the life of being self-employed as well. I think when you're self-employed, it's difficult. You can't have an off day. Well, you can, but you can't.
Absolutely. Charlie, I really appreciate this. And I also appreciate that you sort of, opened up, about your faith and sort of religion around everything else, because I viscerally believe what you're doing is you're doing God's work. Because if you would understand, you're giving people back to themselves. A lot of people would have just maybe retired or would just, I don't know if that's the word, to just recline back into themselves or into their shell, just because somebody has given them a diagnostic of some sort of ailment that they think they can't recover back from. Now, my question here is, with your background now in sports therapy and triathlon coaching and also the faith that you have, what are some of the misconceptions that people have about injury, and actual recovery, and how have you gone about addressing them?
I think there are a lot of the main misconception we have, which is something I would say myself. I really learned with when I fell off my bike, was the fact that if you've got an injury, you're never going to recover from it. Or if you've got an injury, you can't adapt, or you can't keep your fitness levels up, or if you've dropped your fitness levels, you're not going to regain them. So I think I learned the hard way that all I could do for weeks was walk. Eventually I got to sit on a stationary bike. I couldn't lift any weights, but what I did do was work really hard on my flexibility, was work really hard on just keeping as active as I could. So a lot of people will come to me with an injury and will be like, that's it. Everything's done, everything's over. And it's like, hang on a minute, no, we can adapt around this. So I've got someone coming in that's a marathon runner, actually from my church, that I saw hobbling on Sunday, and I was like, what have you done? Had a little chat, worked out, and she's got some marathons coming up, and I've just said, look, let's just take a breath, let's just take it step by step, because you're not ruled out yet. We just need to look at. So actually it's about enabling people to see beyond what they've got as an injury and saying, okay, so your legs aren't working properly at the moment, but I know if I strengthen your upper body, when you're running, you need your upper body. I also know that if you go swimming, which you can do with a knee injury, you're going to keep your cardio levels up, which is going to surprise you, because when you come out, you'll be like, oh, actually, I can still run. I also know that you can go and you can walk, run, and you're still working the cardio levels through there. A lot of people as well, when they come with injuries, misconceptions, oh, the doctor's told me I need to rest. If I rest it, it's going to be better. No, especially if you've got a back injury, laying on a bed, it's not going to get your core muscles stronger. I've just taken a lady on recently that was bedbound for 8 weeks, younger lady, and she's now 4th or 5th session in, and I just am realizing that I just have to trust the process. And it's really hard when you come off an injury because of the fact that you want to be where you were. So for me, I was like, hang on a minute, I was rubbing, I could run 10K in sub 48 minutes. I can now run 10K in 54, 55 minutes. But that's okay. Sometimes you have to sit with okay. You can't look at the past. It's about sitting down. And I think when you have an injury or an illness, the key thing for me is getting people to draw a line in the sand and not look back to where they were. We're not saying they're not going to get there. We're not going to say they're not going to surpass that. But reality says at that point in time, they're not where they want to be. So it's looking at what they can actually do. So Kerry with her shoulder, it was about getting the mobility back. It was about the flexibility. And when I said to her, we can get you swimming front crawl, she was like, how can we do that? I was like, we're just going to go on and we're going to keep doing it. And we're going to keep working on the strength for it. I think as well, when people come in that have been given, I've had people told by doctors and told by physicians, you're never going to do this again. You can never do that again. And I think, hang on, you can never say to someone never. You might not be able to do it as you did it before, take Tom cycling, but he can get there and he can cycle now. No, he's not as quick as he used to be, but do you know what? He's out there and he's doing it and his body's stronger. And we've prevented him having to have hip surgery now for 18 months longer because we've worked on other muscle groups. And it's about trusting the process because a lot of people are scared and they're fearful as well. If you've got something, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be really fit, not fit. If you're suddenly have a diagnosis that's not great for you, it's quite a scary place to be. And me, that my role, I think, is to bring you out of that being scared, out of a heart of love and care that says, come on, we can do this. And we're gonna work it through together. And I think as well, it's easy to say a lot of it is physical injuries, but when people go through stuff that emotionally affects them, we forget how much physically it can actually affect people. And I'm realizing quite a lot with some guys as well. It's more the mental side rather than the physical side. And once you can get that mental side under control and people can understand that process, they can then move forward physically because their body will respond better. And yeah, it's not an easy place to be. And I think, and especially when you're working with people, I have got people and I work with people online, and that's quite hard when you're not physically with them and you're having to say, actually, just trust me here. This is how far we're going to squat. This is what we're going to do. Just trust me. I just need you to do that. And the amount of times we're like, oh, flipping heck, wow, it actually worked. It's a challenging place, but I think for me, I've realised that it's fundamental that people trust you. And I think I would say for us as well as a company, we're really honest about our faith and stuff. And, some people could be put off by that. I think people are like, hang on a minute, you're actual normal people that are engaged, that have a heart, that care, that want to see the best in us. And that's something that we always bring. And there's a lot of people that come and say, there's something different about you girls. We're like, yeah, there is. That's because where we're at and what we want and where our focus is. And I think on our bad days and our good days, that's where your focus has to be. And that draws people in because there's a community and a heart of love there, I think. And we're both very honest about our own difficulties, whether it's mental or physical. Sarah's a bit more honest than me, but I'm getting there. But yeah, I will say, especially during triathlon before competitions this year, I've probably been more, because I've raced really hard this year so far. People have probably seen more real Charlie rather than masked Charlie of life's okay, we can deal with it, which isn't a comfortable place to be, but it enables other people to think, actually, I can do that and it's okay to maybe have those days that are hard because we're all normal and we can work through it. So I think, that a lot of people's misconceptions around rehab are, this is it, I can't move forward, I'm never going to get where I want to be. And in some cases, you have to say to people, do you know what, you're not going to be where you want to be, but we can get you way better than you are, and we can get you doing stuff again. And it's difficult to have that conversation with people sometimes. I'm never ever going to get the lady I've got, I don't think she's ever going to walk properly like she did before. But yeah, we are going to get the fact she will be able to walk. Her aim is to be able to walk. We have a very big church, but to walk from the car park into the auditorium, which is about 200 meters, 250 meters, we'll get her to do that. But I'm not going to say to her, I'm going to get you to walk miles again, because that's a lie. But for someone that was told they could never walk again, that's a massive achievement to be able to do that, or get upstairs on your own. So you do have to, along that, I think, manage it well, and maybe, say to people, you can't do that half marathon you want to do, but actually let's aim for a 10K, and then see where we're at the end of that. And it's managing people's expectations, and how feel like they failed. Because I think you feel like you failed, you've got an injury, you feel like you failed. You have to work through that, I think.
Absolutely. I feel like it's all knowledge, really, because the more you know, the less fearful you become, because most of these people are afraid to do, or maybe lift heavy things, or bend in a certain way because they've been told this is who you are becoming. And that fear now paralyzes them, for lack of a better word, but then it just sort of incapacitates them for the rest of their lives, because that's what they've just been relegated to. And not only are you doing this in Norfolk, you've actually started, like you said, becoming a little bit honest about everything and documenting your journey somewhat, through your blog, Anorexic to Triathlete, which I think people can read far and wide. They would know the good, the bad, the ugly. And I really think it's a powerful tool, because, representation matters. When somebody who and or have heard of has sort of been where you've been, it makes it easy for you to actually then say, you know what, I too can maybe be, do, and have whatever it is that they wish for in life. Now, how has sharing your story, because you keep repeating the fact that I haven't been upfront with a lot of things, but you've sort of started doing that. But how has you sharing your story publicly influenced the work that you're doing, and maybe connected you a lot more with your clients and maybe your wife?
I think there was a couple of weeks ago, one of my old clients works for a newspaper where here. And I asked her to do, I just said, would there be any way we could put a post in really for fundraising? And yeah, I wrote it, then Sarah rewrote it, because she was way better sending it than me. And I'd started a little about doing my blog then, and she said, can I entitle it Anorexic to GBR Athlete? I've got to admit, a couple of weeks ago on the Monday when it came out, I woke up in the morning and had a real panic, because I suddenly thought, oh gosh, there's all these people that are suddenly in Norfolk going to read this, and they're suddenly going to know a bit about me that I don't necessarily want people to know. And the impact was quite crazy. I work at a gym once a week teaching spin, and I've made some connections there, really. And one of the girls in class, had said to me, flipping heck, your blog is just changing my life with everything that's going on, and resonates with my history. To have a coffee. And then the newspaper article came out, and one of the ladies brought it in. And suddenly at the end of this class, I had 6 or 7 people saying, this is inspirational. Like, yeah, you talk about the fact you compete for GB, but suddenly here you are in an outfit, in your GB kit, on like in a paper, and we're reading your story. And one lady's like, oh, my sister's really anorexic. No, my daughter's really anorexic. She's just been told she can't do anything. She's 18. It looks like her life's over. Another lady said, oh, my daughter works, mental health, has gone to work with the eating disorder team. Could I give her your information? So it became suddenly, for me, something was very, very uncomfortable, but made me think, hang on a minute, I need to really look at that, because it's obviously starting to other people to be honest, and other people starting to think they could help. And a lot of people, a few people like, we didn't have a clue about you. We didn't have a clue. You just come and you teach. No one would ever know. And I was like, well, that's the point, isn't it? It's here. And another lady that was in her, I would say in her 70s, said to me, oh, I was bulimic for years. She said, I still am in recovery. Should I say to people it's a daily choice? And I said, yeah, it is. So I think it's kind of in the last few weeks changed my business mindset a little bit and where I'm at, which is I was going to create a course online for triathletes, interestingly enough, to prevent injuries in the off season. I've completely changed that now, which is why I'm going to work with, working with recovering people that are at a point that they want to get well, they want to get fitter, they want to get stronger. I've had to be really careful in doing that I've got a good support crew. So as I said to you, I think my lady that's a therapist at IPT is brilliant. She's jumped on board and said, look, I'll be your dumping ground, because they're going to be conversations that aren't easy. Through it, I've started to have, I have been training 2 or 3 people, probably more than that recently, that have specifically come to me because they've known my history of eating disorders, and just because their family has spoken to me and have said, can you help? And I said, yeah, I can. Can't promise I'm going to have the answers. So I think in starting to open up and be a little bit more vulnerable, it's changed my perspective a little bit. And I think it's making more people be honest about their history. We've had a couple of our clients actually come up and say, or since we trained, you didn't know that about me. You didn't know that was in my history, which is why I struggle with my weight now, which is why I struggle with that. So I think it's made me realise that choosing to be uncomfortable, which it is uncomfortable, is actually a really good tool, and it is going to help people and gives me a different mindset, I suppose, about business. And it's also about saying to people, I've got pictures of when I was really, really tiny to actually I did put weight on. I was a good size 16. I was quite big, and I had to change my eating habits to lose weight, which sounds bizarre. I had to eat more because I wasn't eating enough. And actually it was Sarah, and I met Sarah as a friend, that said, we need to sort this out. We need you to start to eat. I didn't eat carbohydrates. So I'm really honest with people. So how did you suddenly go from like a size 16, 18 down to a size 8? Well, A, I changed my training, and I train like really, really hard. But B, I had to learn to eat more, which, trust me, as someone with an anorexic brain, is counterintuitive in so many different ways. But it worked, and that's where I am. So in terms of how does it affect Sarah and I think we know each other very well. So she knows when I'm stressed. Her default when stressed is to eat rubbish, which is why she lost 5 stones, now menopause, is struggling to put it back on. My issues when I'm stressed is to not eat. So we kind of have a happy equilibrium and an understanding with each other to call each other out, if you like, and say, hang on a minute, let's just take a step. You need to sort that, and you need to sort that. So it works when people begin to see that with us as well. Now it becomes quite a laughing matter, if you like. But I do think being on 2 ends of the spectrum helps, because it means you can kind of meet in the middle on occasions, or understand, that's just
great stuff. And thank you so much. Now, for those that are obviously not able to buy a ticket to Norfolk, but can maybe click a button or 2 on the internet, where would they be able to find the blog and some of the online stuff that you're doing there, Charlie?
So we're on Facebook. So we're on facebook.com, and that's Beyond Inspired Norfolk. And we're also Beyond Inspired Fitness. And I had to remember, I sent you what the link was, because I always forget what my website is. So you're probably going to have that more than me. I always get told off for that. But
that's all right. I could always put them in the show notes below so that people can.
I'm a bit rubbish with it because I'm a bit naff at that. I can also send you my link, which is probably easier for the blog, to be honest, because it's quite a long link that you have to follow. It's a Beehive. It's a Beehive thing, and you can sign up for free as a subscriber. So you go in, you put your email in, and every single Friday around 9 a.m. It comes up onto your screen, and it's probably easy to put that link into the notes, I would think, just because otherwise it's quite a lot of numbers to come up. You can look us up on Facebook. So Beyond Inspired Fitness on Facebook, you can research and that will come up. And on Instagram, it comes up as well. And I have got, if you just put in Beyond Inspired Fitness onto the internet, it will come up as that we're a personal trainer based in Attlebridge, and that will come up as well. So it's actually https and it's beyondinspiredfitness.co.uk. The page is currently being adapted and changed around a little bit. So the best place at the moment is really Facebook. We've had a business meeting last Friday. Actually, that's what you do when you're off on holiday, have a business meeting. We're changing quite a lot to do with the website. So at the moment, I'm just checking it. It's not opening up as it should do, but that will be changed in the next couple of weeks. So I think Facebook's probably the easiest place to find us at the moment. But in terms of the blog, I can put that on line. You can get that.
Absolutely. Now, thank you so much. I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes so that people can actually get started on their journey, whether it's just to learn about where you've been or just maybe find answers for themselves. Because as you would understand, each and every one of us is just looking for ways to be, do, and have a happier existence. And I think, you guys, what you have done and what you're doing and how you're working and helping other people is literally, like I said, handing people's lives and giving people permission to actually live life to the fullest, because so many of the diagnostics that the people get from, responsible members of society are usually, life ending or pretty much, career sort of ending judgments, which with a bit of work, like you have actually helped those with broken necks and things like that to recover. Somebody would have been actually just relegated to be couch potato and never have to want to do anything for themselves. Now, Charlie, with all of this, I know you're writing a blog, but I feel like you owe us a book and movie rights and everything else that comes along with it, because your life story and your experience have so much in it that just needs to be tapped into, because so many lessons can be deciphered from that. Maybe from your own conclusion, what sort of invisible lessons from your journey would you like maybe our viewers to maybe just take away from what you've been through so far?
I'm only smiling the fact you said a book because my wife keeps telling me to write a book, so she'll laugh at that comment. I think for me, important life lessons are, number one, never let someone tell you can't. Because if I let someone tell me I can't, I would have been a fitness instructor. There's nothing wrong with being a fitness instructor. I know some really good fitness instructors, but I would have got sucked into that and not followed the personal training route. So I'd say never let anyone say you can't. I think as well, don't quit. One of my friends says you can be rubbish at something, but you can't be a quitter. So on those days when you're having a tough run like I was having yesterday, it's saying, hang on a minute, it could be a rubbish run, but you can't quit, because that's not in your language. You don't quit. I think I've also learned that you have to find your tribe and find people that you trust. It's not about it's not about having masses and masses of people, and there's different levels. And I have one or two people that I trust with everything, and that's really important. Find people that have got your back. Find people that are going to work with you, that are encouraging you, that are the best you. And we've recently gone to a position where we've actually let some friendships go, which is a really difficult place to be. But it's recognizing and saying, hang on a minute, they're not helping me. They're not for the best for me. And actually what they're doing is pulling me down. So I think that's a really valuable lesson. And for me, I would say my faith is fundamental. I would honestly say if it wasn't for my faith, I wouldn't be here. It's that pulls me through, in the darkest times. It's that's got me to eat. It's that's got me when you think you're losing everything or you have lost everything, to believe that there's the other side of life, really. And I've just learned as well, you have to be resilient, and you have to learn to adapt, and you have to learn to change. And it's not easy sometimes, and it's scary, and it's hard. But you have to choose to take a leap of faith and back yourself, and have people around you that will back you, and have wise counsel. I had a meeting with someone recently, last week actually, with the lady that is therapy, just, this is what I want to do. What do you think? Where are we at with this? And you just need to have people that are sound in your world that you trust, that have good advice. So we have a couple of people that are business mentors, and Brendan Chaplin I work with quite closely, and he's been brilliant to sound things off and get some wisdom from. But I think ultimately for me, it's just about believing in yourself at those difficult times and choosing every day. I make a decision every single day to train, to eat, to work hard. That's my decision. I have to make that decision. It's like, it's the first thing, to pray. They're fundamentals that I do in my life every single day and set my day off right. So that's one thing I have learned as well. You need to set your day off right, because there are times I haven't. And, like, I'm not saying life is easy. Life isn't always easy. There's definitely obstacles in the way, but you need to have your grounding point, I think. Have your grounding point in all things.
From what I'm hearing you saying is, if you want to go far, you could go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. So many people are trying to go at it by themselves. And eventually that's when you burn out, and that's when imposter syndrome starts kicking in, because you have no frame of reference. There's no point that keeps you accountable for you to actually achieve those things that you're after. Well, I can't thank you now, Charlie, for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, obviously everything that you've given us is just gold after gold after gold. I believe maybe it's because you've been winning gold medals in your triathlon, so now you just feel like people should just be receiving those. But tell us, what's next? What's next for you, you and your wife, and just pretty much what any new services, any new races coming up? What projects are you excited about that you can share with us now that we know who you are and we're now following your journey?
So I have got, my biggest races coming up are the World Championships this year in Spain, Torremolinos. So 17th of October, I'm competing in the age group 40 to 44 age group. That's right. Yeah, this year. I was 44 in August, so just there. It's confusing the world right now. So that's my biggest race coming up, standard triathlon. I've got a couple of races leading up to that. I think as well, I've got a couple of fundraisers coming up. So that's going to be a spinathon and a quiz night and stuff. But I think the most exciting thing is, as a business, my wife just set a 13-week challenge up actually for people. And that is really about, she is on a journey of wanting to lose weight again, get her health and fitness back. So that's something that she's offering out for people. Initially, she does another role as a consultant, SimWorld consultant. So she's doing it for them. But then as of November, will be launched in a format. We're also looking, well, she is, not me, but as a business, I say, to launch something working specifically with women with menopausal, that suffer from the menopause. She's a qualified coach, so she'll be looking at that specifically, because there are so many issues that people hear. In the next couple of months, I'm going to be launching my course for recovering anorexia to developing strength and improving your self-esteem. And that's kind of where we are as a company, really focusing on those online things that are going to be launching. I've got a couple of clients that don't know yet that they will be taking part in a triathlon next year. So they're going to be starting their little training journey. But they don't know who they are yet, so I can't say that online. But I'll be having conversations with them to kind of push them outside of their box a little bit. So yeah, I think that's what we've got coming up. So I'm thinking the last quarter of the year is going to be quite exciting, with new things launching, and seeing the community grow, I think, is probably the way forward for people.
Absolutely. And I viscerally believe you've created such a community, because the transformation and the journeys that you've taken people on obviously are life-changing, and everybody will be talking about that from the top of their voice. And that's just going to be a never-ending cycle of people wanting to know you and be around you. So it will be remiss for you to not write a book, because that's how you can literally leverage your expertise and what you have actually come across. So thank you so much for living this journey and for sharing your story with us today, Charlie.
So be nice chatting to you.
Absolutely. I mean, you overcame personal battles to now empowering others to actually achieve their dreams. And I think your story is just a testament to the power of resilience and especially community. Because if you look at the world today, they're fighting, the people that may be are fighting so much that we continue living six feet apart, and yeah, maybe 6 feet under or whichever direction they're looking at, but it's just not helping the actual human to thrive. So it's people like yourself that are literally yes, putting humanity back together again, and for that I applaud you, and I thank you and Sarah for taking this upon yourselves to make it happen for others. Now, for those that are watching, if you actually found this episode as inspiring as I did, be sure to maybe rewatch it, because Charlie said a lot of stuff that might have just, gone in one ear and left the other. But if you're listening to it for the second time, you might actually catch a thing or two. Or if you find that this may not be your cup of tea, why don't you share it with somebody who's going through stuff in their life, especially somebody who's been through a major trauma, accident, or they're just going through some sort of, lifelong illness. They might actually find some sort of redemption in what Charlie has just told us. And maybe you could be part of her journey with regards to all the things that she's got exciting moving forward. And just while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more insights from amazing individuals like Charlie, who are actually making a difference in the world. Until next time, keep thriving and pursuing your own prosperity. Bye for now.